Good evening, everybody out there in Radio Land. Hey, it's Wednesday night. It's 8 o'clock. Hey, it's November 11th. Happy Veterans Day to everybody. Thank you all for serving. And if you got a few veterans out here listening to us tonight, I'd like to thank you personally for your service. And before I go any further, I'd like to thank my co-host, my brother Josh Matson, for his service also. So before we get started, I'd just like to say thank you, Josh.
Oh, I appreciate it there, Jerome. I'm just one of many who've done the same thing, so I appreciate it, though.
Yeah, no problem, man. Hey, I'm glad to see you're one of the good guys here. And you and I, we're going to do what we do every week. We're going to have ourselves a blast. We're going to have ourselves some fun here on the NGSC West Coast Recess. Our teams here on the West Coast, you know, we are the most underrepresented a lot. Our games start late at night. Our teams don't get as much respect as they should, which is kind of shown by Stanford being ranked 7th in the playoff standings when they're probably one of the best top 5 teams in the nation. But you and I, we'll talk about that in a little bit. And what we like to do is we like to have fun because that's what we do. I mean, you can't fight the West Coast Bias without having yourself a little fun because it's such a wonderful, exciting thing to talk about here. And I guess I should go ahead and introduce myself properly. I am Jerome Butler, a.k.a. Raider Rome, a.k.a. The Sports Butler, a.k.a. my little brother's big brother, a.k.a. Raider Fabulous. And fighting the West Coast Bias, as you all know by this point, it's never a one-man operation. So I like to bring to you both properly the one man that I do trust in this operation. My co-host with the most, my brother of a different color, my main man, Josh Matson. How you feeling tonight, Josh?
I am feeling good, Jerome, and I'm excited to do this show with you as always.
Oh, yeah, no doubt, man. So I guess we should go ahead and get right on to it, man. Big win by your Oklahoma State Cowboys this week, man. They put a beat down on TCU. I mean, I thought that they would win the football game, but I'm very, very shocked at the way it was done. And I guess now you got something that you want to tell me. Mason Rudolph over Josh Rosen. I can't even argue it. Discuss.
Yeah, well, Mason Rudolph's been playing good lately, for sure, and he has a lot of help at wide receiver. I think Oklahoma State's challenged all around with Aitman, Glidden, and James Washington, who's been an absolute beast this past month or so, maybe one of the best wide receivers in the country. I'm happy with my team. The defense, other than yards, they created turnovers last week, and they were in control of that game from the get-go. But the one negative is obviously the yards they gave up to Boykin.
Yeah, well, I mean, Trevon Boykin is a quarterback where you know he's going to get his money. What you want to do is kind of limit his opportunities. And I think for the most part, Oklahoma State did that. They kind of, I mean, you're not going to shut the guy down, but they contained him enough to where they were able to make big plays on their own accord.
Yeah, every time they need to make a big play, I think they made it. That's just unusual because that doesn't always happen. But yeah, it was I predicted they would. I mean, I knew they were going to win. But I didn't think it was going to be like that kind of score. But it was fun, and the crowd was really into it. So you can't beat that at a college game when the crowd's completely in it.
Oh, yeah, no doubt, man. I remember you sitting here telling us on the NGSC West Recess on one hot, stinky-ass night in June, Oklahoma State could potentially be undefeated and have a shot at the playoff. And you're starting to look like a prophet over there, Mr. Matson. I mean, you got 2 tough games left, though, with Baylor and Oklahoma, but you get both of them in Stillwater. So what do you think of Oklahoma State's chances in these matchups coming up?
I'm going to be interested to see what happens in the Baylor-OU game because I think that's going to show. That's really going to, turn a light bulb in my head. Like, if Baylor plays bad, then I'm confident Oklahoma State's going to win pretty easily. If they play really good against OU and they just beat the heck out of them, then I'm going to be a little bit worried. But the one thing Oklahoma State has going for them against Baylor is they haven't lost them at home in a long, long time. So it's going to be fun no matter what. Now, Oklahoma State still needs to get past Iowa State this week. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but they had a chance to go to the national championship years ago, and they blew it against Iowa State. So I hope they treat this game like they have every other game of this year.
I know exactly what you're talking about, Josh. November 18th, 2011, you got the number 2 ranked Oklahoma State Cowboys going into Ames, Iowa, and they just pretty much just blowing in overtime at Iowa State. And that pretty much cost you guys a shot at the national championship because you got that Alabama-LSU rematch that nobody really wanted to watch again if you didn't live in the SEC.
Yep, the Oklahoma State would have been a national championship if they didn't lose.
And I'm going to go ahead on a limb and say they would have probably defeated LSU, and the Big 12 would probably be what the SEC is now, just because of the whole 6 degrees of Ohio State, Michigan, and Florida from back in 2006, which started this whole SEC train that we have today.
Yeah. I'm not sure what would have happened in that game, but I have to tell you, I think Oklahoma State could have passed on Alabama or LSU in that game, and I'm not sure if they would have because Saban's teams, if you've watched throughout history, when he's been faced with spread offenses, his teams haven't fared well. So
then you guys had a couple of All-Americans back there playing for you, and Joseph Randall and Justin Blackman. So I'm sure they would have been able to give whoever played in that game from the SEC a lot of trouble that night.
Yeah, and Dallas Cowboys lifetime backup Brandon Whedon was the all-star of that team probably.
Oh, yeah, he was the quarterback. And I don't think Joseph Randall would have been trying to steal Nick Saban's underwear or anything like that. Inside joke.
Oh, yeah, you know who else was on that team? Dan Bailey, the kicker in Dallas, too, I believe.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Man, you got a lot of NFL talent on that 2011 Oklahoma State team, huh?
Yes, sir. So we're talking college football. What are your thoughts of the top 4?
Well, I have no problem with the top 4, actually. The thing that really shocks me is that how Notre Dame is 4 and Iowa, they jumped all the way up to 5. I mean, I like Iowa. They've beaten everyone that's been put in front of them. The problem I have here is I think you should probably go with a team such as Oklahoma State ahead of Iowa. I mean, 5-8. Sure, it doesn't matter now because, I mean, you guys are still going to have to settle it in the end. But I still think Oklahoma State should have been ranked a bit higher. That's the only beef I have with the top 4 right now. They've got it right now with Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, and Notre Dame.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think Iowa's going to lose anyway, so they're going to drop. Baylor obviously will have to lose to Oklahoma State if they lose, or Oklahoma State will lose to Baylor. I don't know if Stanford necessarily has left. Let me look at their schedule, but that's a team that, yeah, they still got Oregon and Notre Dame on their schedule. So Notre Dame and Stanford are going to lose. One of them has to lose again. So we'll see how that works out.
All right. Funny situation here for you, Josh. Say you got an 11-1 Stanford team, or rather a 12-1 Stanford team, against a 12-0 Oklahoma State team for that last playoff spot. And say Stanford gets the spot for Oklahoma State. Do you think that the Big 12 just gets pissed off and begins to boycott this whole playoff nonsense, and you start to either see it expand to 8 or just completely crumble before our eyes?
Man, I would be so angry if that were to happen, but the Big 12 has it coming to themselves if they don't add a championship game, in my opinion. So, or they need to add 2 teams. You know what else I think, honestly? I think the Big 12 should break up and Oklahoma State and OU and probably not Texas, because I don't think they would allow Texas to go to the SEC because of the situation with Texas A&M. But I think you would see a lot of teams going to the Big 10, Big 12, and SEC. Kind of big split, like a third of the conference going to each.
So what you like to see is basically the big-name teams in the Big 12 kind of take off and just go to bigger conferences, and while the Big 12 just pretty much turns into a high major conference pretty much.
Well, personally, I think OU and Oklahoma State should go the opposite of where Texas goes. I really do believe this because I think Texas has been holding the Big 12 back, if that makes any sense.
Well, a lot of people believe that Texas actually saved the Big 12. You remember back in 2010, right, Josh, when Texas almost joined, and Oklahoma and these teams almost joined the Pac-12, which would have created a super conference and pretty much killed the Big 12. So I mean,
well, yeah,
you're kind of in a different school of thought there.
They killed it, but to me, that was the best case scenario was for them to join the Pac-12. So, to me, Texas actually screwed the Big 12 in reality, in my opinion.
And now look at Texas. They're pretty much a shell of themselves now. I mean, Charlie Strong is trying, but I don't really think that he would be the kind of guy that could actually get Texas back to the way they were when they had Vince Young and guys like that. I really think that, I mean, I miss Oklahoma playing Nebraska myself. I mean, I feel weird that hasn't happened in about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, that's that was a big rivalry. Yeah, having Nebraska out of the Big 12, it's just weird because their fan base is amazing. They travel well. They sell out every game, no matter what, even if they're bad. So.
Before we move on here, though, Josh, I was just sitting here the other day. I was thinking about something that was like really, really tripping me out. You remember back in the early 90s when Nebraska and Colorado were like big-time Big 8 rivals, right?
Yeah.
They could actually potentially meet each other in the Rose Bowl now. Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah, talk about total weirdness, man. Yeah. So moving on here, man. Did you watch any of that Clipper Dallas game tonight? Did you?
No, sir. No, I didn't watch any basketball.
Me neither. But I hear there was like a big time. There was like Dallas, man. They just went all crazy on DeAndre Jordan, and I'd hate to be him tonight.
Yeah, that's. I did read quickly that he got booed every time he touched the ball, which is what I expected, to be honest with you. But he had it coming, and he's probably going to hear it a lot every time he plays Dallas for years to come, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, you brought it on yourself. I mean, you got to be able to be honest right away. I mean, you could tell that when DeAndre Jordan did sign that offer sheet, he never wanted to go to Dallas anyway. And we probably talked about this before. So basically, it's just a thing with being honest with yourself. This is the same as like when you when you get into a long-term relationship with a woman. I mean, make sure that's what you really want before you do it. And I don't think DeAndre Jordan was kind of in the mental state of mind to actually make a decision like that just right away.
Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of people believe that I think he made the right move. If he wasn't going to be happy in Dallas, he didn't sign a contract at that point, I don't believe. So, I mean, he has a right to. Now, I might be wrong on that. He may have already signed the contract. I don't believe he did, but if he had, that would be a different scenario altogether.
No, it was still during that moratorium period where you couldn't sign your contract. So technically, he was still a free agent.
Yeah, you're right. That's right.
Yeah. Okay, here now we got ourselves a little football here. Oh wait, one more thing before we move on here. You've been noticing that you've heard anything about this situation that's going on with D'Angelo Russell, the Lakers' first-round point guard rookie, and his problems with head coach Byron Scott? I mean, the Lakers aren't a team that's going to go anywhere anyway. We're 1-7. We're completely putrid. I mean, I'll just go ahead and say it. We're ass, man. And this guy doesn't even play D'Angelo Russell in the fourth quarter of basketball games. This team's going to win no more than 20 games, and I think he's hindering his development. So if you're the Lakers, do you think you start looking to probably fire Byron Scott? Because, I mean, what he's doing is completely counterproductive to the future of this organization right now.
Well, my opinion on this is that you don't draft a guy in the top 5 and put him on the bench. That's like that his confidence is probably already going down, and he's probably getting frustrated. I don't agree a rookie should be questioning the coach in the media, but I do believe that there's no reason why he's not getting more playing time. I mean, you draft him and he went third, right, or second?
He went second.
Yeah, so that's even my point. He went second, and he should be playing. I mean, I don't know of many number 2 guys that aren't starting when they, get drafted. So I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it's really a weird situation. I hope that they really start to get things together here, man. Because the Lakers, they do need a new superstar. Kobe, I don't even think he'll hold up past Christmas. He's already starting to feel the frustration. So I just go ahead and let the guy retire. Take your money. You've done a lot for the organization. Just move on, and we'll find something for you to do here.
Yep.
Man, shootout in Pittsburgh Sunday, though. Pretty good game there with the Raiders and the Steelers. Derek Carr, he gets better and better every game, even though he did have that back-breaking interception in the fourth quarter. And the Raiders, their defense, dude, man, it leaves a lot to be desired. You give up almost 500 yards of total offense to two players. You give up 600 yards. I mean, DJ Hayden and David Amerson, I mean, every time you look, they were staring at the back of Antonio Brown's ass. I mean, Martavis Bryant also. I mean, it was just a pretty frustrating performance as a big-time Raider fan as I am. But, I mean, our guest Duckman last week, I mean, he was completely wrong, though, about the whole 38-35 situation. I mean, the 41-6, rather, the 40. I mean, the Raiders had 6 before the first drive of the game. But, I mean, it was a great football game, though, and I hope Roethlisberger's getting better soon. I mean, Alden Smith sacked him. He messed his foot up. But it was a pretty fun game. Derek Carr, he's really got to learn how to minimize his mistakes in the end zone. The Raiders should have won that game easily. You cannot put the football on the ground, though, and expect to win football games. And it bit them in the ass. Pittsburgh 38, Oakland 35. What was your thoughts on this game?
Well, you mentioned Antonio Brown, but why don't you mention another guy who had a good game in that? D'Angelo Williams, 170 yards rushing. That's just crazy. As far as the Raiders go, Michael Crabtree is the most impressive guy. I think he's playing like he wants a good contract. You can tell. I like what he's doing. Derek Carr played good. Derek Carr's played good every time I've ever watched him play so far. He impresses me. I still think the Raiders need one more go-to guy at wide receiver, and they would be tough to beat, you know.
Yeah, the Raiders are actually showing that. Hey, they finally starting to find their identity, and it's looking like they're a pass-first team that can attack you with Latavius Murray when needed. So that offense is perfectly fine. When they can find a defense, man, you better beat us now, because when we figure out a way to stop teams, oh, man, it's going to be over with. So I'm really looking forward to the next few years of Raider football, because they're actually starting to get close to turning that corner. And we get to take a look at another young quarterback next week in Teddy Bridgewater. So I'm really excited about him Sunday, too. I'll predict that game a little bit later on, and I'm sure you'll have a prediction also.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So let's see here. What else took place here in the West last week as far as the NFL went? Okay. Man, hey, I don't usually like to toot my own horn either, though, Josh, but, hey, Indianapolis over Denver, man. What can I say? I don't know what. I just felt it. But Andrew Luck gone for 2 to 6 weeks after that game. Man, it's going to be tough for Indianapolis. And Peyton Manning coming up tantalizingly short of the record for passing yards in that game. Man, so what was your thoughts about that whole situation? The whole Andrew Luck, Denver, Indianapolis situation.
Well, Andrew Luck getting hurt obviously kills the Colts. I mean, that's a bad situation. He's starting to get beat up. No offensive line. I mean, what else can be said about that? As far as the game, real quick, I'll leave it at this. Denver, if you can't run the ball, you're not going to win football games. That's it. I've been saying it all year.
Yeah, finally seemed to have caught up with them, Josh. So Indianapolis, they get the win 27-24, and Raider Rome looks like Raider Nostradamus there with that one.
Sure. Well, I got one game right out of those West Coast games that you all missed, though, the Chicago and San Diego game.
Oh, yeah. I thought San Diego would come out, though, and make one big push at trying to save their season, because that's what they usually do this time of year. Phillip Rivers, he finds the magic, and San Diego, they just start beating the hell out of people. It wasn't to be this week. I mean, Jeremy Langford, I picked him up in a couple of leagues. I like to thank Matt Dulcan for that one. He told us that he'd be a sleeper. So, yeah, I mean, he helped me out big time. He got 70 yards, had a touchdown, had a big catch. Hey, and Jay Cutler, hey, Mr. Fourth Quarter. What can you say? Usually Phillip Rivers wins those games. San Diego, man, I think it's over for them guys. They're just looking to get the hell out of San Diego and probably start fresh. And, hey, get rid of Mike McCoy, too. Just start all over in a new city. I think it's over for the Chargers. What do you think?
Oh, it's over. The season's over, sure. They have a lot of needs, if you ask me. I don't really think they're all that talented on offense besides Phillip Rivers and Keenan Allen, who's hurt. And they need help on defense, too, so. And probably a coaching change or some kind of change in the maybe an offensive coach or defensive coach. They could use a little bit of everything, if you ask me.
Yeah, those guys are completely dropping like flies, man. That's weird. This week we didn't really have too much West action. Arizona was off. Seattle was off. Kansas City. And who else was off? That's pretty much it.
Let's talk about the Rams and Vikings game.
That was a pretty big game too. Yeah, we were talking about Teddy Bridgewater not too long ago, and he was the victim of a very, very nasty hit at the hands of a Lamarcus Joyner last week. I mean, Mike Zimmer, he's intense to a point, but he's also a pretty intense guy. And I think if he got his hands on Jeff Fisher, somebody's getting their ass whooped, and it's not going to be Mike Zimmer. He was hot about that game. Todd Gurley gets in the end zone again. I mean, Adrian Peterson also. Those guys, man, I think we've seen a passing of the torch at running back, though. Stephon Diggs had himself another nice game. Minnesota, man, I thought they could contend for a playoff spot, but at 6-2, they're exceeding even my expectations. And we'll have Coach Kurt Nelson on a little bit, and he'll tell us how he feels about this, and it's going to be good to hear what he has to say about the Minnesota-Oakland game. But the Vikings are 6-2. Man, they're shocking a lot of people. How do you feel about the Vikes and that win at Lawrence Sunday?
They're a good team. What are they, 6-2 now? So they're probably in the playoffs with the way that NFC is panning out, because it doesn't look like it's all that strong from top to bottom versus the AFC is probably better. And they're probably going to get in, and Vikings fans should be happy. They got a lot of young talent, and Rudolph, Diggs, and Charles Johnson hasn't really shown up like everyone thought he was going to this year, but they have a bunch of young talent, and Adrian Peterson's probably the youngest, or the oldest, not the youngest, oldest star they have, and he's still performing, so you can't complain there. St. Louis, Stedman Bailey, I think, suspended now, if I remember right, and they just signed Wes Welker.
It's nice to see Wes Welker get a job again, Josh. Yeah. But the only thing that scares me is he's probably one bad hit away from being brain damaged again. I mean, from being brain damaged, but brain damage or whatever, but yeah.
No, I know. It's a scary situation. I mean, I don't understand why he'd want to play. I mean, he's already made enough money, but last thing I'll say about the Rams was they can't win big games on the road, and that's why they're not a legitimate playoff contender to me right now.
Yeah, the Rams, they always seem to have the problem of not showing up in big games. I mean, they've got the defense to hang with anybody, but if this continues, I mean, with offensive struggles, wide receivers are getting suspended, and you go on with old retreads such as Wes Welker, this Rams franchise here in St. Louis or in LA, they'll probably be never any more than a mere 8-8 football team at best. So they've really got to start to figure out some things offensively to take that next step.
All right, let's mention the 49ers and Atlanta game since it's the last of the West games.
Yeah, and Matt Dulcan would be pretty happy. Blaine Gabbert, he actually was able to throw the ball to open wide receivers, and, hey, it helped out the 49ers. And their defense, man, they made life tough for Matt Ryan. Although Julio Jones did get his going over 100 yards like he did. I mean, the 49ers, they were all over the place. They played a spirited football game, and, hey, this team is still fighting hard for Jim Tomsula. So with the 17-16 victory, I think the 49er fans can start to take heart that their team hasn't quit on them. It's just a lack of talent or whatever. But, yeah, they're still fighting hard, and, hey, they still got a lot to play for. I mean, they're not that far behind the Rams and Seahawks also in that NFC West. So, hey, just keep playing. That's what I say. Your takeaway, Josh.
49ers defensive line dominated Atlanta's offensive line, and they couldn't run the ball at all, man. I mean, they tried, but I only got 17 yards rushing in the game. That's just bad. So the 49ers are definitely not giving up, and that's impressive. And, there's this Quentin Patton guy I never heard of who's actually had a pretty good game, 3 catches for 70 yards. But I don't really know how the 49ers won the game, but Blaine Gabbert did the job. That's what I can say.
Yeah, man, that's pretty much what it boils down to, do enough to win, man. And that was our look at Week 9 in the West. So I guess now, without further ado, we like to introduce to you, get your pens and papers ready, all you fantasy football gurus out there, or you fantasy DraftKings and FanDuel players. Go ahead, get your money right, get your money out and play while you still can. I mean, it's illegal in New York now. It's a matter of time for it to be illegal everywhere, I guess. But, yeah, while it's still legal, we got a guy that'll help you make a little money here. And you don't want to talk to me about making money. I'm just in the way here. So without further ado, I'll let you talk to the money man, our NGSC Twitter fantasy football guru, Matt Dulcan. How you doing tonight, Matt?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, fellas. How are you?
Yeah, we're doing great, man. It's always good to have you on again. And thank you for Jeremy Langford last week.
Oh, man, I love that. That was the Monday Night Hammer in full effect. Definitely held your lineups, if not boosted them, up in those tournaments. It was a wonderful feeling.
Yeah, it felt pretty good to make a little money for a change instead of losing it.
Yeah.
So what you got for us this week?
Oh, I got some great plays for you this week. Some guys that I love in cash, some guys I love in GPPs. We're going to get right into it. A guy, maybe people don't want to target this team for fantasy purposes in years past, but times have changed. Allen Robinson on the Jacksonville Jaguars, facing Baltimore, 7,500 on FanDuel, 6,700 on DraftKings. He's the wide receiver now on the season, and that's in only 8 games. He manufactured yards handily versus Darrelle Revis coverage with 121 yards on 6 catches. The only island that he visited had Mai Tais and Lays because he was throwing a party. Allen Hurns has a sprained left foot. He may not play, and this boosts Robinson's already high target floor. I love him regardless, and it helps that the Ravens give up the second most fantasy points to the position. Let's get to a guy that I did not think was going to develop into the role. He did, or stay healthy. Last year's Raider, you guys know him, Darren McFadden at Tampa Bay, 7,000 on FanDuel, 4,900 on DraftKings. I don't know what happened to this guy. He is rejuvenated. He was not running well last year. He just didn't look good, but, he's looking good. And Run DMC, it's not tricky. Just play him. He has the workload in the matchup. It's almost a no-brainer. He had 28 touches last week, 26 the week before, and he's locked and loaded as the workhorse back on an amazing, top 5 offensive line. He has 200-yard games in a row, and that's versus the Seahawks and Philadelphia, 2 top 5 run defenses in terms of fantasy points per game allowed to running backs. I'm going to have this guy in a ton of lineups. 4,900 in DraftKings. I'm going to have him on every single DraftKings lineup. At that price, you pretty much just slot him in there. That's a free spot. Just move on. You're going to get 25 touches for under $5K. That's a beautiful thing. Next, we're going to have a little running back duel. I'm going to be pairing these guys together. Darren McFadden, the other running back, Doug Martin, playing one another. Doug Martin against Dallas, of course, 6,700 on FanDuel, 5,600 on DraftKings. I'm not a guy who loves to play Martin. He's always been a guy that was a victim of game script, but it turns out that is no longer the case. This is the week. He's in a high-volume role, a home game, a great matchup where they are favored. So that makes me feel a lot more comfortable slotting him in there, So he's pretty much guaranteed to get to his 20.25 average touches per game. He's averaging 4.5 yards per carry. He really is rejuvenated. I think he's going to exceed his 20.25 touches per game this week. Dallas has allowed the 7th most fantasy points to running backs. And, he's even been getting some work in the passing game. So, I think Doug Martin's a great play. Not a guy I'm usually on, but I really love him this week. And that's going to bring me to the stack of the week. Blake Bortles, paired with a guy I talked about earlier, Allen Robinson, facing Baltimore, 7,800 on FanDuel, 5,600 on DraftKings. The Baltimore Ravens allow the 2nd most fantasy points to quarterbacks, and Blake Bortles has been balling. He's the 8th highest scoring quarterback in the league on the season and is rounding into true form, and he is averaging 24.4 fantasy points per game. He is my tournament stack of the week. I'm going to have him in, a large percentage of tournaments because the floor is there. The upside is just incredible, especially 5,600 on DraftKings. You pair that with 6,700 on DraftKings for Allen Robinson, you're saving some money with a guaranteed big game, and it could be tournament winning, and I believe it will this week.
So you're looking for a Jacksonville-Baltimore shootout over there Sunday, Matt?
Yeah, I love it because also, they're dogs. They're 5.5-point dogs. And, Ravens' line is pretty decent. They lost Suggs, but they've still been holding it down, so they're not going to be able to get the run game going with T.J. Yeldon. And I think Flacco's going to make hay because it's a similar case on the other side of the ball. The Jaguars defend the run very well, but, you know, they're lacking in the pass protect or the pass defense. Excuse me. So, you know, I think it is going to be a shootout. They're going to I don't really like Flacco too much, though, but I love Blake Bortles playing from behind. 21.25 team total. I like at least 2 of those touchdowns to go to Robinson.
Oh, hey, Blake Bortles is playing really well here. So I got another question for you here, Matt. Minnesota, Oakland. And it looks like Latavius Murray is kind of questionable right now. But if he doesn't go, what do you think about Tywan Jones and Marcel Reese? How do you think they'll be able to split up their points Sunday as far as making you some money on that Minnesota-Oakland game, being the running backs for Derek Carr?
I think that if they, you know, come out and they say that they're going to give Jones the starting job and they're going to let him, you know, get a large percentage of the running back work, I would love him in some GPPs. I would assume he's near minimum price on both sites, if not minimum. So, you know, I would definitely fire him up in some tournaments, but, you know, unless the Raiders come out and pretty much say what's going to be going on, or you get a read from a beat reporter watching who's running the first team practices, the first team in practice, and I don't know. It's going to be hard for me to make that plunge, but I would definitely have them in tournament if they say they're committing to a guy.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you for that outlook there, Matt. You got any questions for Matt over there, Josh?
Sure. Washington Redskins are playing the Saints this week. So we have 3 wide receivers on that team who I think have a little bit of at least a look at them type, you know, thing here. Jamison Crowder, the rookie, and then you got Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon. I know Crowder would probably be a cheap play and could be a good play maybe. But do you like any of those Redskins wide receivers this week?
Yes, I love Deshaun Jackson in tournaments. They have a high team total, 24.75. He's cheap, 6,000 on FanDuel, 5,400 on DraftKings. That 6,000 price on FanDuel is ridiculous. You rarely find guys with this kind of upside at, you know, a $6K price tag. That's just insane. This guy, you know, he can get it done in like 3 plays. He can put up plus like 20 plus points. He has tournament winning upside. He's, you know, if I had to pick a guy that I said would be on the winning Millie Maker and FanDuel $5 million contest this week, I would definitely say Deshaun Jackson. New Orleans allows the 6th most fantasy points to wide receivers. Again, not a cash game play. He runs some low percentage routes a lot of the time, but I love him in tournaments this week.
Oh, okay, not bad there, Matt. And before we let you go here, do you have any Jeremy Langford type sleepers this week? Somebody that can just come through and just make you say, wow.
Oh man, I don't know if I got a Jeremy Langford. That was pretty money there.
yeah, that was big time. But you got anything that could be like close to that? Just anybody that you're just not thinking about that just jumps out at you?
I have one guy that would be a super deep sleeper depending on injury, and you know, a lot of people don't like to do the work and keep up to it. Pay attention to the D'Angelo Williams status this week. You know, he didn't practice yesterday because he had a swollen foot. We don't know how serious it is. Cleveland allows the 2nd most fantasy points to running backs in the league, and they said that Jordan Todman is going to step into a large role if D'Angelo Williams does sit. I haven't checked the DraftKings price, but he is minimum on FanDuel. So a 4,500 guy is going to get you, you know, 15 touches with the upside of maybe even 20 touches. That's definitely something you can invest in, you know.
Okay, not bad. We got Jordan Todman here. I mean, hey, D'Angelo Williams probably did beat us up. He won the battle, but it looks like we won the war. Pittsburgh's looking like a mass unit now, even though they won the football game.
Yeah, it's an infirmary over there, you know. They just can't stay healthy. They keep having injuries. But, yeah, them and the San Diego Chargers, they just do not have the luck with them. They're falling like flies.
Yeah, they got a lot going on there.
Before he goes, I'm in a dynasty league, and I lost Deion Lewis this week. So I want to know I have 4 guys I have to choose 2. Chris Ivory, Shane Vereen, James White, and you just mentioned D'Angelo Williams. So I assume you would say start Williams. So out of the other 3, who would you start this week?
So you had what were the first 2? It was
Ivory, Vereen, and James White.
Yeah, I mean, you have to go Ivory. You know,
I thought so.
He's been a little banged up, but he's been getting the work. The 2 touchdowns saved you last week. You know, the line just hasn't been blocking as well, in addition to him being a little bit hampered. But, you know, you got to roll with him. I mean,
yeah, I agree.
This guy is just a workhorse. He's a beast, and I think he'll step it up this week.
Well, I mean, those were some pretty interesting takes there, Matt. And I like to say thank you again for coming on with us. We always have a great time with you. You do such great work, man. Having you with us is kind of like having our own free fantasy football guide. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys for having me on every week. You know, check my stuff out on xnsports.com. I write for them, and then my own website, thirddown.com. Thanks for having me, fellas.
All right, no problem, man. Hey, stick around and check out the rest of the show. We got Coach Kurt Nelson coming on soon, so yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Sounds good.
All right. And that was Matt Dulcan there giving us more fantasy football information. I mean, I feel smarter every time he comes on. So, hey, it's always a great time there. How about you, Josh?
Oh, I enjoy his segment for sure. He's given good information every time we've ever had him on the show, so I can't think of any whiffs or anything like that yet.
Yeah, exactly. We get 2 or 3 more segments like that, we'd be number 1 in the country.
That's right, yep.
Well, without further ado here, I mean, we've kind of delayed this about 5 minutes here, but it's time to roll here, and we got ourselves our guest here. He's a pretty funny guy. He's a pretty smart guy. I mean, we call him Coach Kurt, and we call him Coach Nelly. And he's a big-time Minnesota fan. He's going to have a lot to say about this Minnesota-Oakland game coming up. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce to you my good friend and one of the smartest people I know as far as football goes, head coach Kurt Nelson and Coach Nelly. How you doing tonight, Kurt?
Hey, Jerome, doing great here. Hey, Josh, nice to be talking to you guys here from Minnesota, the land of 10,000 lakes and 100,000 taxis.
Yeah, well, it's good to have you there, Kurt. Man, I mean, we got to get you on here more often. Last time we were here, we were talking about your Mayo Spartans team, and you guys, I mean, you told us that you guys didn't get to go as far as you would have liked to. So tell us a little bit about what happened in that playoff game.
Played our crosstown rivals, a team we had beaten earlier in the season, and faced up against them in the playoffs. Home game, good game. They jumped out ahead. We tied it up. They took the lead in the second half. We tied it up again. Had the ball late, drove and stalled, punted it back. It looked like overtime, and they had a kid break off a 78-yard touchdown run that pretty much iced the game. But our kids played well, and it's always fun to see them go out there and play that hard. It's always a little bit more fun when we come away with the win, but that doesn't always happen.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, as long as you guys go out there, they play hard, and they play smart for you, that's really all you can ask for as a coach, right?
Oh, yeah. But the Vikings, they're 6-2, and they're looking for their first 5-game winning streak since starting 6-0 back in 2009. And
well, as a Raider fan, Kurt, I'm going to have to say I hope you guys don't achieve that aim, but, hey, it should be a good, fun football game.
Well, you know, going out on the road, it hasn't been a good thing for the Vikings, but they have won their 2 straight now on the road. They won at Chicago and Detroit. 2-1 for the year so far on the road. And going out to Oakland, they got a chance to try to redeem that opening night debacle they put out there in the Bay Area. So, but here again, looking at, as you know, as a Raider fan, you know, over the course of history, the Minnesota Vikings have had a lot of success against a lot of different franchises, but unfortunately, the Raiders aren't one of them.
Yeah,
we've only won
Minnesota's actually only won once out in Oakland ever.
Yeah, that was back in 1996, long time ago. But, do you remember that game, Jerome?
Oh, yeah, I remember that game big time. I was 12 years old at my mother's house, and I actually threw a temper tantrum because I think Oakland missed a field goal in that game right before Minnesota drove down the field to win it in overtime, 16-13.
Yeah, the Vikes jumped out in front quick, 10-zip, had an 82-yard touchdown pass, Brad Johnson to Jake Reed. Brad Johnson had a couple of good games against the Raiders, didn't he? And then Brad Johnson.
Yeah, I can think of one that we don't want to talk about.
Well, Brad fed a pick six to the Raiders, and then the teams traded field goals for the rest of the game. Vikings kicker Scott Sisson, do you remember him? Eventually got the better of Cole Ford in that 16-13 Minnesota win. So that was the only time the Vikings have ever won out there on the West Coast against your Raiders.
Cole Ford was a joke. I think that dude is probably in jail somewhere as we speak, Kurt. So, I mean, you never know here. So the game Sunday here, I mean, we got ourselves a couple of young guns, I mean, with Teddy Bridgewater and Derek Carr. So tell me, Kurt, Minnesota wins this football game if?
Are they going to win it?
So what do you think Minnesota needs to do to win the game? Like, they win the game if blank happens?
Well, their recipe has been so far winning this year has been, solid defense and the ability to run the ball. I mean, we've got a young quarterback. You've got a young quarterback. You guys have the better quarterback. Teddy really hasn't wowed me, but he's not losing games. I hate to say, just managing it, but and the Vikings aren't asking him to do a lot. He's making some throws when he has to, but he's not spectacular back behind there. And our O-line isn't that great, but it's really been the defense and the running game. I think the Vikings have a really good matchup run-wise against the Raiders. Adrian Peterson continued his solid play against the Rams. He cranked off 125 and a touchdown. And the Raiders have a rush D that's, I think, in the top 10 of the NFL. But Pittsburgh gashed them last week for 195 yards, which was a stark contrast to what I think he only gave up just over 70 yards against the Jets, who actually are a good running team 2 weeks ago. So, but I think that'll be the formula. The Vikes will have to run the ball, get some pass plays out of Teddy when it's necessary, and I really like the Vikings defense under Coach Zimmer.
Well, yeah, they are pretty big time. They're big and scary and they're fast. Those quarterbacks are no joke. With Xavier Rhodes, Trey Waynes, and who's your other corner? You got Harrison Smith at safety. So yeah, we've really got to be on our toes there. So Josh, what are your keys to the Minnesota-Oakland game this week?
My keys for the Vikings to win the game would be to establish what they normally do anyways, is get Adrian Peterson the ball as often as possible, get that kid Diggs running down the field as fast as he can and throwing some long balls, and then, of course, for Oakland, let Derek Carr be Derek Carr, let him throw the ball around the field, and hopefully don't get picked off in a crucial moment like last week. And I don't know how that running game is going to look for the Raiders this week because of Murray's injury, as you mentioned earlier, but they do need to try to establish a run game with the guys they got. So, yeah, so that's my key to the game for each team.
Well, my keys to this football game is, I guess it's pretty much the same thing as it is every week. I mean, Latavius Murray is currently in the concussion protocol, but from listening to Jack Del Rio earlier today and reading on Yahoo Sports, it does seem a bit like he is going to go try to play in this game. So if he's 100%, I mean, that makes things a lot easier for Derek Carr. Amari Cooper got injured today. He's got himself a bit of a quad issue, so that's going to make life very difficult for Michael Crabtree. I'm sure in the last couple of weeks, I thought that he'd have unfavorable matchups, and he's actually dominated his competition. So I'm not going to say that he can't play well because he's proved me wrong against teams such as the Jets and the Steelers. So I think it's going to be pretty much up to Crab because even if Cooper can go, he won't be 100%. Running back situation here. Give the football to Marcel Reese. Let him get out there on the edge, cause some matchup problems. That way Carl will have another outlet. And use Andre Holmes' size and speed against those Minnesota corners. I mean, sure, they're very good and they're very talented, but, I mean, Andre Holmes is a big athletic monster, and I think he can help cause the matchup problems that Oakland is going to need to win this football game. Defensively, you cannot allow 284 receiving yards to anyone. sure, I don't believe that Stephon Diggs is going to go anywhere near that number, but he is fast and electric enough to make life very, very difficult for DJ Hayton and David Amerson. So the thing is, I'd like to see more of a zone play in the Raider backfield, just so that you can kind of keep everything in front of you and you're not getting beat for 60 to 70-yard passes. And Charles Woodson, with his shoulder injury, I'm sure Minnesota is going to look to attack on the ground with Adrian Peterson. And, I mean, it'd be wise for them to try that anyway, just because Peterson is such a big monster in there. I'll make my prediction after this. Kurt, what's your prediction? If you had to predict the score, what do you got for us?
Well, because of the change of attitude that Coach Zimmer's brought to this team, and now I've got a lot more confidence when they go out on the road. They've got a running game, like I said. They got a defense. I see the Vikings 20, the Raiders 16.
Okay, that's not bad. I mean, the Raiders will have to make a lot of mistakes to get the city, but Minnesota does have the defense to slow them down, though. How about you, Josh? What do you got for this game here?
I'll go with the Raiders, 24-20.
Okay, good call there, Josh. To
Thanks.
me, I think the Raiders are going to have to score to win this football game. And Minnesota being held to only 16 to 17 points, that's just simply not going to happen here. I think that Minnesota Bridgewater, he's going to find ways to attack this porous Raiders secondary. And he's got the horses to do it. But the Raiders, with Derek Carr being at home, I just think the Raiders, they have too much for Minnesota, and they take down the Vikings 31-24 with a late touchdown. But it's going to be back and forth all day. It's going to be a game that's a lot of fun.
Well, that doesn't sound like fun to me at all.
I'm sure it would. I'd have a great time with it. Yeah, but it's going to be a great game, though, Kurt. It's good.
Well, the thing the Vikes have going, over the years, they've never had consecutive wins against the Raiders, and the last time they played was back in 2011. And Raiders got a win there, so that means it should be up now for the Vikings to get one, because since we can't win two in a row against you guys, this should bode well for them on Sunday, I'm hoping.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a lot of fun here. I see I got my good buddy D. Will on here, and we'll get his opinion on a few games in a little bit here. I'm glad you showed up, D. Will. How you doing today? How you doing over there, my brother?
Blessed beyond comprehension, my man. Glad to man. See what's popping on in my old stomping grounds.
All right, man. It's good to talk to you here. All right, we're gonna run through a few predictions here with Coach Nelly. Then we'll have you on in a few minutes there, D. Will.
I'm posted.
All right. So you ready to make some predictions with us for this week here in the West, Kurt?
Yeah, let's roll.
All right, then. Let's see here. Let me look at my ledger here. Okay, we'll start out here with the Kansas City-Denver game. The Broncos coming off of their first loss this season. I mean, they won't have Aqib Talib because he decided to be a weird ass and go poke Dwayne Allen in the eye. And sure, Peyton Manning, he will be the all-time passing yards quarterback in this game. So I think with that being said, they're going to really try to run the ball with C.J. Anderson. I mean, sure, he struggled last week in Indianapolis, but he did have a 100-yard game against Green Bay last week. And Kansas City, I'm sure, with Alex Smith and Toe, they're going to want to try to inflict a little revenge for what took place in week 2 when they had Denver all but beaten, and they just pretty much choked the game away at the end. I'm going to go ahead and say it'll be another close one over there in Mile High. I'll say Denver 20, Kansas City 14. What do you got for us, Kurt?
You don't like to play a team that's used to winning right after they lose. Broncos are at home. They right the ship. Broncos 28, Chiefs 17.
All right, what you got for us, Josh?
I think Denver's defense will show up in this game and cause Alex Smith a bunch of issues. Denver's going to win 26-13.
Okay, we all got Denver here on this panel here. All right, next up we got the Bears and the Rams. I'm sure the Bears are feeling pretty good about themselves pulling a game out of their ass coming on the West Coast on national TV. But the St. Louis Rams defensively, they're nothing like the San Diego Chargers. They're going to get after you with Big Nick Fairley, Aaron Donald, and those guys. They're going to bring it. The only thing is it's going to be kind of different offensively because the Rams, they don't have Stedman Bailey. They're bringing in Wes Welker. But you still have Tavon Austin, and you got, man, probably the best rookie in the NFL in quite some time in Todd Gurley. the Bears, they'll hang for a while, but I do believe that defense, they'll begin to wear Cutler down in that offense, and the Rams, they'll find a way to pull away late. I'll say Rams 23, Bears 13. What you got for us, Kurt?
I go with the home team, Rams 24-20 over the Bears.
All right, Josh?
Rams play good at home, and this is a game they should win. 23-17.
All right. And we've already run through Minnesota, Oakland here. So we got the big one here on Sunday Night Football. Man, all year long, I believe that the Arizona Cardinals, they were kind of wondering what things would be like if they could face the Seattle Seahawks with a healthy football team. And there's a pretty funny factoid here. The last time Carson Palmer started a football game at Seattle, the Cardinals won. So, I mean, with that being said, do I think it's going to happen again? No. Seattle at 4-4, they've really got to get this game to save their season. And Arizona, they're a very good, powerful football team. I mean, I like what they're doing with Chris Johnson's rebirth and things of that nature. But Seattle, I mean, Richard Sherman seems to be back on the way he's been over the last 2 years. And it looks like all is well also with Earl Thomas Jr. I think that Seattle, they sent a message to Arizona, and this isn't going to be a very good football game for the Cardinals. I say Hawks 24, Cardinals 16. What you got, Kurt?
I've got to go with Seattle at home. Like you said, they're desperate. They can't afford to lose any more games, let alone home games. And a division game against Arizona. Seahawks 24-20 Arizona.
All right, what you got for us there, Josh?
To me, Seattle is a team that could just easily be 2-6 as much as they are 4-4. They beat a Dallas team that didn't have their quarterback, Tony Romo, by 1 point, and then they got a gift against the Lions. So, I mean, we're talking – to me, I think Arizona is so much better than Seattle. I think Arizona's going to pass on Seattle in their home stadium, and they're going to make them look foolish. I think it's going to be like 24-13 Cardinals.
Ooh, a Cardinal beatdown within the 12th man. Man, Josh, you really going with the upset special this week, huh?
No, I don't really think it would be an upset, though, because I don't think Seattle has done anything that's impressive. I don't know how the media talks like they're the greatest team in the NFC. They haven't shown me anything that makes me think that. So.
Oh, no, I definitely wouldn't call Seattle the best team in the NFC, but I do think after they drop this beatdown on Arizona, they'll be right back in that conversation. But hey, we'll get right back together next week, and we'll be here to talk about it, Josh. So good luck with that Arizona Seattle.
Hey, could I jump in on this one?
Yes.
Go for it, D. Will. What's on your mind there?
Man, well, Rome, last year you and I did this show together, man, and what was about all season with me from the beginning to the end. The team is so underrated, and they're disrespected by the national media, man, that the Arizona Cardinals and that no-fly zone defense is even better this year. Like, this defense is the best defense to me. Like, everybody's talking about the Denver Broncos, this, that, and other, but the Cardinals have two cornerbacks that are rated by Pro Football Focus in the top 10. They're graded. Seattle has nothing to speak of when it comes to a passing game. And this Arizona defense, they can stop the run better than anybody, and they can put pressure on Russell Wilson without bringing a blitz. And that's just the defense. And the offense is just on another level right now. And like you mentioned, man, they went into Seattle and they could get wins. And I agree with Josh, man. I think Arizona's going to go to Seattle and make them look foolish.
Well, I'm going to have to disagree with you there, D. Will. Although you did have Arizona last season in Seattle. So, I mean, I'm feeling that 12th man. The Hawks, they've got to save their season. They can't fall 3 games behind Arizona and not have the tiebreaker if they want to even sniff the playoffs. So, Seattle, they got to have this one.
I love it, man. I love it. Hey, man, I miss you, Ron, man. I miss us going back and forth with you, man.
It's always fun, D. Will. You should stop by more often.
Oh, no doubt.
Okay, Kurt. Before we let you go here, Minnesota, they've started 6-2 so far. You're starting pretty well, but it looks like the schedule's about to take a very, very significant turn here. You get the Packers twice, you get a road trip to Arizona, and you got a game with the Seattle Seahawks. Do you think that Minnesota will be able to hang on and at least put on a good face in these games? And what do you think about their playoff chances?
Well, I'm kind of like the man from Missouri. I've been picking against the Vikings earlier in the year because you got to show me, and they're starting to show me. These aren't the same Vikings I've seen in the past. This isn't Brad Childress or Mike Tice or Leslie Frazier's team going out there. We actually got a defense that travels. It keeps them around in games. So it's hard to write them out. They've already kind of exceeded my expectations. So they definitely can win some down the stretch. I'm hoping they get to 10 wins. I think 10-6 will get them in the playoffs, and that's a pretty good start.
Well, before the season on the prediction show, I did have Minnesota going 10-6, but it is going to probably require beating the Seattle Seahawks and splitting with the Green Bay Packers. And I don't think splitting with Green Bay is asking too much because it looks like the Packers are completely reeling right now. So you guys are catching them at a good time next Sunday, especially if they struggle this week with Detroit.
Well, that team east of us from America's Dairyland, they are the favorites to win. And they've got the trigger man, Aaron Rodgers. But here again, it's a new attitude that's coming around. And these guys have bought into what Mike Zimmer's doing. And as a football coach, once you get your team to buy in what you're doing and what you're selling, it just takes it to another whole level. So hopefully that will carry them on. I still think the Pack are the favorite to win the NFC North. But I like what you're saying. I think we can get a split with them. We end the season week 17, January 3rd. At Lambeau. That just sounds cold even to a guy in Minnesota.
Well, yeah, make sure you get the win at the TCF this week, or next week, rather. You guys are dealing with us this week. But, yeah, next Sunday at TCF, that's a big one. So, yeah, make sure y'all get that one.
Yeah, take it to the bank.
No doubt, man. I had a great time with you tonight, Kurt. We're going to get you in more often, man. And we've all kind of adopted your Mayo Spartans here. So next year, man, you guys get the state. And we're all here rooting for you here on the West Coast.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jerome. You too, Josh.
Later. Take care.
All right. Take care. Thanks again, Kurt.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, here we got my former co-host D. Will and one of my good friends here. We're gonna have him Friday night over there on the Black Hole Brigade, and we're gonna have ourselves like a little town hall meeting over there where we discuss the first half of the Raiders football season. So, can you give us a little sneak peek of what you want to tell us about what you've seen so far, D. Will, with the Oakland Raiders?
Man, I just want to say how pleasantly surprised I am.
You turn it off.
I'm pleasantly surprised by how they're winning ball games and how they've been playing. I really didn't expect, the offense to click as much as it has so quickly. I expected it to be more of a defensive type of feel to this team because of the new coaches that we got and inheriting coaches from the Seattle Seahawks and whatnot. But the defense, the passing defense has been horrible for the most part. If it wasn't for Charlie Wood teaching those guys how to make plays, this team would be lost, man. So it's just a few surprises, that I want to speak on, man. And I'm just happy that everything is going well for them right now. I just want people, to temper the expectation. You start playing well for a second, you have to develop that winning culture, man. And the culture, the winning culture isn't here yet. Like, we have everything in place. The foundation is in place. The players are there, the coaches are there. They've cleaned up a lot of the penalties this year. That's what a lot of people have been talking about, clean up the penalties, man. But still, like, at the back of their minds, they're finding ways to lose ball games. Like, if winning was part of the culture, this team will easily be 6-2 this year. They should easily be 6-2 without giving a few games away. So that's just my take.
Yeah, well, I really look forward to hearing what else you got for us over there Friday night, man. It's going to be a great show. So, yeah, bring your excitement, man. I really look forward to it. And it was good having you. Yo, what's up, Josh?
Before we end the show, since D. Will's on the show and I want to ask you both, are either out of these three teams, is there any team that is going to go undefeated this year? New England, Cincinnati, or Carolina?
No.
No.
I say yes.
All right, what team you got going undefeated, D. Will?
I say yes, and two of them could actually go undefeated. This week is the biggest test for the Patriots. I don't know what it is about the Giants. I don't know what it is about playing against them, but the Patriots just can't seem to get over the hump against the Giants, man. They can't. So this is going to be a test. But Carolina's schedule, oh my goodness, like it's cake. They've been through the toughest part of their schedule already, and it's just real quick. Let me just take a quick, give me a second, man. Let me just run off the list of teams who's on the Panthers schedule. Hold on a second. The Panthers, their defense is amazing, and Cam Newton is doing the damn thing. Look, the Panthers have Tennessee this week. Then they have the Redskins. Then the only blip, I think, really on their schedule is the Cowboys when Tony Romo is likely to come back. Then they have the Saints, the Falcons, who really aren't a legit team. They're just a facade right now. Then the Giants and the Falcons and Tampa Bay. I only see them losing one of those games maybe, and that's at Dallas. And other than that, man, like their schedule, man, it's just cake. And Cam Newton seems to be the real deal. He's a man on a mission. And I have no idea how he's getting it done with nearly a top 50 wide receiver on his team. So I just think that's amazing. And Cam Newton, man, should be MVP hands down, brother.
Well, Cam Newton should definitely get some MVP looks. But, hey, I think, say, the Raiders, they get to 9-7, 10-6. That's thinking way far ahead. That's another story. But I think you can start looking at DC4, Derek Carr, for a little MVP look, if they can somehow figure a way to navigate that.
No, sir. Because Tom Brady is going to win MVP.
Good, Tom Brady can go to hell.
He is. Tom Brady is going to win MVP. Sorry, I lost.
I've got nothing against that. It's a good prediction there, Josh.
Bro, let us extend this. Let's extend this for another 10 minutes, can't we? Let's extend this for another 10 minutes. Let's talk about this for a second.
Okay, go ahead. What's on your mind, D. Will?
It's like, Josh, the narrative, man, like the MVP vote isn't always who the best player is. Like, it's the narrative. And right now, there's no way I can see if it's between an undefeated Cam Newton and Tom Brady at 15-1. They have to give it to Cam Newton because of all the mess that went on at the beginning of the season with the whole Deflategate, this, that, and the other, the different speculations that's been popping up about the Patriots recording teams in the locker rooms. I don't think there's any way, if there's a comparable player to Tom Brady who could possibly receive the MVP, they're going to give it to that other guy and not Tom Brady, even if Tom Brady does deserve it. They have haters. Somebody else. It just ain't going to happen.
Well, you are sitting here dealing with a couple of Raider fans, Josh, so yeah, of course.
Does that make any sense to you, Josh?
I get you. I get what you're saying, actually. I kind of agree with you. I wouldn't be shocked if the NFL gave it to Cam Newton, like you mentioned, over Brady, even if Brady was like threw 40 touchdowns and 5 interceptions all year or something like that.
There's Brady, Cam Newton. There's even you could even throw Andy Dalton. You could even throw Andy Dalton's name in the mix somewhere in there. I believe it pretty much comes down to those three guys. You're not going to give it to a defensive player. There aren't any running backs who's blowing us away right now. So it's pretty much them. As of right now, of course, somebody could blow up in the second half of the season, man. But I don't know, man. It's going to be hard, in my opinion. This is my opinion, to take it away from Cam Newton. He's on pace to have 28 touchdowns passing through the air and 10 rushing touchdowns and break all top of NFL records when it comes to rushing for a quarterback this year, man. And it'll be hard, man. I just think it'll be hard to take it away from him.
Great points there, D. Will. And we'd like to have you on again here soon. I guess, we're 7 past the hours. I guess we're going to kind of shut down here. But hey, thank you for coming on. Hey, and don't be afraid to stop by here on the Black Hole Brigade anytime you just feel the notion to.
Hey, man, I'll pop in anytime I have the time, man. I appreciate you allowing me to extend you and mess up the flow a little bit, man. But thanks for having me. Nice chatting with you, Josh.
No problem, man. Hey, tell the people about your show over there on the NGSC before we let you go.
Yeah, you catch me every week. Most of the times on Tuesday. Today I just recorded it. But we're the Fantasy Football Addict Support Group. A great fantasy football advice. Sharing my stories of the ups and downs and trying to help people, bring championships and overcome the problem of fantasy football-aholism. You know what I mean? So if you play fantasy football, you got a couple of leagues, and you just got to keep playing fantasy football. You too are a fantasy football-aholic. And, come to my show, which is basically a therapy session through MP4 and MP3, to learn about the game and improve your team week by week. So check us out, NGSC Sports, Fantasy Football Addict Support Group.
Yep. And thank you again, D. Will. Thank you again to my good buddy Kurt Nelson also. Thank you again, D. Will. We'll see you Friday night over there on the Brigade.
Yes, sir.
Yep. And speaking of the Brigade, you can check out me with Jim Paskowitz Friday night at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Raider time. And we'll have ourselves a preview of the Oakland-Minnesota game. We'll review that debacle between Oakland and Pittsburgh last week where Derek Carr wants to sit there and turn over the football like candy. But that's another story. Jim and I will be able to bring it to you, and we'll have ourselves a town hall meeting pretty much about the first half of the Raiders season, our unsung heroes, our best moments of the game, and what we look forward to in the second half. So tune in. It's going to be a great time. It'll be me, Jim, D. Will, and we'll have probably Nick Kearns and a couple of other Raider fans also along here. And even you can stop by if you like, Josh. I'd like to have a enemy view if you don't mind.
Roll together.
No, we won't. We'll talk about Eli Manning bombing New England. But yeah, that's another story.
All right.
But yeah, and speaking of the New England Patriots, you can check out my main man Josh Matson over here with Shaq Krosky Saturday mornings for the NGSC Flying Elvis Faithful. Those guys, they do the New England Patriots more justice than I could, would, or would even want to for that matter. It's a great show. They really lay it down. They're really smart guys. They're good friends of mine. But, yeah, check it out. You'll laugh. You'll have a good time. You'll get informed also. And speaking of Josh Matson and Raider Rome, we'll be back here next Wednesday night like we do for the NGSC West Recess. We'll try some new things next week, and we'll see how it goes. What these new things are, you have to listen to find out. But, yeah, Josh and I will be here. We'll bring the fun to you, and we'll fight that West Coast bias. So for D. Will, Darrell Wilson, for my main man, Kurt Nelson, Coach Nelly, I'm Raider Rome, Jerome Butler, and for Josh Matson, we are the NGSC West Recess. Raider Rome, gone. Good night, and go Raiders.
Good night.